Hi everyone, it's Evelyn. It's May 14th, so it's time for a mid-May garden tour. I'm down on my knees so that I can be level with my now profusely blooming kale plant, which has been blooming for its second season, second year blooming. I might have to stand up because I'm only on my knees when I'm playing with the dogs. We're going to do the garden tour starting where I always start it with, and that's going to be in the back garden in the north bed. So I'm going to put my dogs out of their oh look, they stopped. I guess they decided that I'm not going to play with them after all. We're going to start in the back garden on the north bed, which is where I've started the last few garden tours, and we'll go from bed to bed, see what's happening, and by the end of the video you'll know whether or not I had flowers for Mother's Day or not. Okay, let's get on with the tour. Okay, there's the fence on the north end of our property. Here's the first of the 4x8 beds. I have my 6 herbaceous peonies running in a big backward C around it. Look at the size of my lettuce plants. We are definitely in full swing lettuce. So here's my drunken lady, which is the leaf lettuce that I really like. Here's my coastal star romaine that I also really love, and some butter lettuce, which is okay, nothing special, it's a butter lettuce, but I love that romaine and I love that leaf. Now, last we spoke on a garden tour last month, I was going to plant my Jackby little teeny tiny orange pumpkins in this row between the lettuce and the herbaceous peonies, because I only got 2 from that first batch of planting. I changed my mind and I had some extra potatoes to plant, so that's what's coming up here. You can see the potatoes, and I've got them coming up into this section, which was going to have the pumpkins. Here's some more here too. Clearly I also have lots of weeds, but the weeds act like a ground cover, so until the potatoes get a little bit bigger, I will leave them. They stop the ground from drying out, keep the moisture in, and everything's good. I had dug up some garlic that were popping up here and there, and that's what's in between each one of these lettuce plants. So this bed so far is becoming really successful because we have lots of lettuce for lots of salads. I love fresh salad out of the garden. Now the way we do it, as I don't cut the whole head, I don't need to. I just take the outside leaves, which are the biggest ones, and I go around the plants that way. And you can see there's quite a few big ones around the outside. On all the ones, I can fill up a great big huge bowl with that, and then the plant puts out more leaves, and the smaller ones in the center become big ones on the outside. So you get a really good non-stop, super prolific way of growing lettuce that way. I mean, see, look how big the outside leaves are on the butter lettuce. You know, there's just tons there. Because I'm not holding the camera in the right place, there's just tons there. So at some point, these few lettuce plants is more than we can keep up with, and that's with having salads every day with our dinner. Okay, so that's the last bed. I'm just going to come over here for a sec. You'll notice the side of our garage is full of sunflowers now, and I've started planting them here. So I've just got up as far as there, but it will continue all the way down there. And I just weed. That's still weeds that's in here. I just weed as I go, because right now the weeds do a purpose. Up against the house here I have stillbes from dividing that are in pots. I was going to put them in smaller pots and sell them this year. I didn't have the time for that. Here in the corner I have daisies growing in pots. They do really well here in this corner, even though it's pretty shaded out. So I end up using them in bouquets. But back to this first bed, we went over that. This little side path here is I can go down here because my sweet peas are starting to grow. That's why I've got all my sweet pea poles in here now, so they can just intertwine amongst the poles. It's very wet here. You can see I got lots of horsetail, buttercup, and that's because I moved this. You can see there's our big O. That big O goes to that gutter, which drains the whole deck as well as this side of the roof. So a lot of water comes out of this big O piece here. So it's a very, very wet path here. And then the moisture comes down here and ends up, there's a little hole there that water drains down, and you can see there's concrete with a little 4-inch gap there. That's where all the side drainage happens. So I leave all the weeds to grow on this path to stop erosion. Otherwise, the soil will just keep coming down here and down through that opening, and I don't want all that erosion. And a lot of that erosion also comes from down the side of our house here, because when it's raining really hard, this is like a little creek coming down here. Any rocks that I get out of the garden I throw here, so that when it's a little creek, it's not too bad. If it's just a little bit of water, I can kind of stay above it by walking on the rocks. Look at Esri. She's willing me to play with her. Anyway, let's get back to the garden tour. So I've pulled up all the grass that was in the paths because it was starting to need weed whacking, so that's what these are. They're just here to die, and once they're dead, they'll become compost and get dug in. The second 4x8 bed is where I'm still composting. This was my last place to compost last week, so these 2 tomatoes are still waiting to get planted in here. But I leave it covered for a week to stop the dogs from potentially digging in there. Then this is going to come up, and I'm going to dig here, and then I'll get those 2 tomatoes there planted in here. Clearly we have the large kale plant here, which should have died a year ago. Look at all the buds on my Ito peony. So Ito peonies bloom before herbaceous peonies. That's one advantage they have. They have 2 other advantages. They don't have floppy stems, so you don't really have to stake them. See how stiff these stems all are? They're not floppy at all. But the other advantage is when they're mature, they get up to 50 blooms per plant, which is way more than herbaceous peonies get. So they may cost more in the beginning, but their benefits far outweigh the cost. Ants don't like them. The herbaceous peonies are known to attract ants. The Ito peonies, not so much. So you don't have to worry about bringing ants indoors when you cut the Ito peonies. So clearly these are fully budded and ready to do something. Same as this one here. You can actually see the color of that one's going to be a red color. On this side, we've got a daisy that's just popped up. Well, it was there last year. I never got rid of it. Little foxglove there. And what I've got going on here is a cucumber, which I haven't planted yet. I've just left it in this pot. It will get planted there. And the reason I have this over it is we're getting really cold nights right now. It's going down to, in a couple of days, it's going to go down to 3 degrees again, but it's kind of hovering around 5 to 7, which is too cold for the cucumbers, the zucchinis, and the tomatoes. I didn't cover these 2 tomatoes up just to compare them with the ones that I have covered up. Over here I have Ranunculus, not Ranunculus, pardon me, anemones. And if you spin around here, my very first anemone, I didn't pick it because it was only one. It's beautiful. Look how nice and long that stem is. If I put my hand down to the ground with my fist folded up, it goes up to above my elbow. So anything, like if I reach down to the bottom of a stem, anything that hits my elbow is long enough for a bouquet. That's how I measure. But look, it's got more coming up, so I'm going to be starting to harvest these pretty quickly. Clearly, I didn't have any for Mother's Day because that's the first bloom. Could have used that for Mother's Day, but one just doesn't cut it. Along the fence here, because this is our fence to our 2 neighbors' properties. It's odd because the fence line is right here, or the property line is right here, so we have one neighbor here and one neighbor here. And at the base of the fence, we have a stillbe. This is the full-headed Shasta daisy. More stillbe, more stillbe. I have a lot of stillbe along here because I use a lot of it. And Leela really likes hanging out down here because it's always quite shady down along this path because of the fence and because of the plants. So now we're going to move into the third 4x8 bed. And here I have, what do I have here? I believe this is more anemones. Now these ones were planted later because I got them. Those ones were the ones that I had overwintered, the corms. These ones were the ones I got in the spring, so they got planted later, so they're doing a little later. I did a fall harvest of the, not a fall harvest, a fall planting of garlic here. I think these ones got planted in November. This peony plant is again absolutely loaded. You can see there's just buds everywhere. Just everywhere. I mean, it's going to be quite the year for the peonies. This is my 4th year with the Ito peonies, so they're supposed to start really producing this year, and they are. In between these two peonies, I have a tomato plant which is planted, and this is one that I'm keeping covered. More anemones, another Ito peony, the other row of garlic, foxglove. Then we move over to the 4th of the 4x8 beds. Got a foxglove that's growing taller. Here I have a cucumber that is planted. Oh no, it's not planted. It still needs to be planted. This is my ranunculus bed, and of course 2 Ito peonies. First bloom, just opened up today. It's not open yesterday. I'll put the name of this one up on the screen. And here's another one that's getting ready to open. And clearly 2 more there. Oh, and here's another one. Cool. Anyway, so I have parsley that's getting ready to bloom. I have oregano or marjoram, whichever it is, which I'm pushing back so that my ranunculus can get seen. The ranunculus, I have just a couple of buds. So there you go. I got no anemones, no ranunculus, and no Ito peonies for Mother's Day. The last of the 4x8 beds, I have my bachelor buttons along here, and they've got buds too, but they're not doing anything. And of course I've got garlic on either side of the bed, which was planted in October. Again, lots and lots and lots of Ito peony buds all over this one. It's going to be really exciting how many buds there are all over this. What I have here is 2 tomatoes that are planted. So I just put a plastic bag over top of the 2 of them. And because they're bigger, so the milk container was too, these are the ones that were in 1 gallon pots. The milk container is too short for these guys. So I've got the 2 tomato rings and just a plastic bag on top. A couple of poles just going through holes that were in the plastic. And then I just put another piece across the top and temporarily tied some twine. Another Ito peony. Here's my zucchinis that I have planted. I planted 3. 1, 2, and 3. They're about 2 feet apart, a little less than. And that's because as long as the garlic is here, they don't produce a lot because they're quite shaded. As soon as the garlic gets pulled, then they start taking over in size. My strawberries are going crazy with blossoms. You can see that in there. I should be getting a strawberry harvest pretty soon. These are my 3x5 beds. There's the other one, just full of blossoms. Excellent. And my alliums are just starting to open. Everything's just starting to open. Oh, look, I even have buds on this stillbe. Interesting. That's covered in buds. And got a couple more alliums that popped up there. And for some unknown reason, ooh, it's gone through the netting. I've got an allium that's growing through my strawberry netting. I also have lots of Japanese anemone. I thought I had weeded it all out, but it's popped up again there. My candy tuft is finishing for the season. My blueberries didn't come down here the last 2 garden tours. Are loaded with flowers. Lots and lots of flowers on here. Lots of flowers on here. Lots of flowers on here. So when they start to put on berries, I use these. You ever seen these cages? Here, I'll just put it out where I can lean it up somewhere where you can actually see what it is. You ever use those cages? They're fantastic. My blueberry plants, I believe, are going to get a little bit too big for that this year, so I'm just going to put a little wood base around the bottom of it that those cages, once it's opened up, can set on. And it keeps the dogs out of the blueberries as much as the birds. The other place that I never actually quite showed you in other videos was this is where I have my yarrow. So I have new vintage red, I have another red, I have a gold, something else. This is just a pole in here with some more of these in case I need them. And here I have my other cucumber that needs to get planted. And of course my mint that I let grow in between the crack of the concrete. It doesn't get invasive because it just keeps to the crack in the concrete. So that's the back garden tour. I'm now going to take you up the driveway and show you what's happening in the shade garden, and we'll look at the sunflowers that are on the concrete containers on the side of the house, and then we'll look at the front garden. Clearly, you know why I call that the shade garden, because it's in shade all the time, which is the place that the dogs love. So the sunflowers along here, they're starting to put on size. Leaves are definitely getting bigger. You'll notice that I have lots of these. This is borage. It pops up everywhere in here, and I let it grow as sort of a ground cover underneath the sunflowers. Columbine is also like a weed in our garden. It just grows in the cracks of the concrete there, crack there, growing up next to the gutter there. It likes to grow where nothing wants to grow. So on this side of the shade garden, you can see the hostas are definitely getting bigger. The dogs now know they're plants, so they don't trample them. When they're just starting to grow, the dogs have no idea that it's an actual plant, so they don't worry about stomping on them. Look at this one. Isn't this one beautiful? With its big, beautiful blue leaves. On this side, these sunflowers, which are 1 week older than what I just showed you, they're looking taller. And the oldest ones over here in this first bed are looking even taller, so that's starting to look like it's about a foot tall, if not more. So that's kind of cool. There's Lila. The giant Solomon seal. It's a little trampled. This is Lila's favorite place to lie down when it's hot out. Camellia bush. I got some bleeding hearts. Here's another hosta. More giant Solomon seal. And a little bit more columbine just sort of popping up here, there, and everywhere else. And then we spin around to the dahlia beds. So as you know, by my planting the dahlias video, I got all my dahlias planted just a little over a week ago, starting about at the beginning of May, and then it took me about a week to get them all in because I wasn't doing it like non-stop. I had other things that I had to do. It took me about a total of 12 hours to plant 190 dahlias. They're all looking really good. I'm only going to give you a quick look at them because I really spent a lot of time talking about them in my planting dahlias video. But let's take a quick look and see how they do. Well, before we look at the dahlias, gotta look at the two dogs standing in the shade. Yeah, so the dahlias all got planted in the first week of May. I'm not going to spend too much time on them because I went over it pretty in depth when I was planting them. But what I will show you is how much they've grown since I planted them. I mean, that's about a good 10 inches tall now. There's no way that was that tall then. And they're putting on new growth. You can really see that here. Like, this is all new growth here and here. And they're looking excellent and healthy. More columbines popping up in the concrete again. The dahlias here looking just as healthy as well. These dahlias in pots still, they're for selling up at the flower wagon. Here's my snapdragons. Now they've grown quite a bit too. So again, this snapdragon is the length of my hand. No idea how long that is. Looks like it's about 6 inches. I've never measured my hand. There's Ezra again, seeing what I'm looking at. So you can clearly see that this is one type of snapdragon, and it's taller than this one. And then this third one is also taller than that one. So it goes tallest, next, and then the third kind. I got it on my plan which is which. I don't remember which is which. I'll put it on the screen which one that one is, which one that one is, and then which one this one is. Can't wait for those to bloom. Hopefully I'll like them. More dahlias in this bed, that bed, and that bed. This bed, I just recently planted my Frizzle Sizzle pansies in here. This is just from weed whacking yesterday. So I got a row of Frizzle Sizzle pansies. And then I planted my chocolate coleus in front of them as well. Put a little walkway so I could get back here. Because this row here is more dahlias for the flower wagon. And then I have my leftover tulips. And my leftover daffodils, of which is what, 3, 4, 5 or 6 pots, something like that. Over here behind the dahlias, if you watched my dahlia planting video, you'll know how much more my sweet peas have grown since that video. They're definitely starting to shoot up in size, which makes sense because I usually have sweet peas by the end of May. Over here I have my espresso gladiolas. No idea when they're going to bloom because I've never grown them again. I have more sweet peas here, but my neighbor's snowberry bush here sends out shoots like weeds. As you can see, it's already all the way. I have to get in here and get them out so that my sweet peas can grow properly. They're all around here, they're all around here, they're all behind this. I mean, they just kind of take over. You have to really stay on top of them. They're quite the weed. I have a little pot with some of my petunias, the first one to bloom, and my Frizzle Sizzle pansies in here on top of my strawberry pot. I didn't have any flowers for Mother's Day, and I still don't, but that looks like that's going to change pretty quickly. What I do have is my pre-planted dahlias on the table here. Inside the flower wagon itself, I have chives, pots of chives, which are getting ready to bloom, so it is kind of like a flower, as well as my art cards and some gift ideas. And then on the steps for plants, I have just my leftover tomato plants right there, and that's all I got right now. Monday and Tuesday tend to be the slowest day of the week for sales, and I'm hoping by tomorrow I'll be able to start putting some flowers up there. Oh, there's more columbine growing in down there. I will definitely have columbine that I can use, even though I don't like using it, I have it. I can start using some of my rhododendrons, and of course I've got a couple of peonies. Oh yeah, and our rhododendron is starting to bloom as well, which is kind of cool. So you can see, whoops, you can see the color of the flowers on our rhododendron. Cool, eh? So that's the garden tour. Not many flowers yet. Going to change rapidly. If you saw all the things that were blooming, or not blooming, budding, and of course my peonies are just starting to flower. Now I didn't spend much time on the dahlias. If you didn't see my planting dahlias video and you are interested in knowing what I have, I go into quite a bit of detail, all the different dahlias that I've got planted and how I plant them, and that's this video up here. And if you didn't see my, what came before May? April. If you didn't see my April garden tour, you should check that one out down here. And we'll see you next week. Bye.